Martin from the Philippines. We're here in Real Talk Lifeline. So what are we doing tonight, guys? It's a live Q&A, and we're going to be talking about relationships. So people who are going to join this live, I just want this to be more relaxed, laid back. Topic of tonight, relationships. So like last time, there were people who were interested in this topic. By the way, relationships, people watching the live or the replay, are you in a relationship right now? Let's begin this already. So comment down below, type yes if you are in a relationship, or if you're not, I'll ask you the question again. So what do I mean by are you in a relationship? Am I in a relationship? So if you are a son or a daughter, if you are a brother or a sister, if you are a father or a mother, well, are you in a relationship? So the answer is yes, right? So, how people who want to put this into practice, they're still questioning, am I in a relationship? So, life insurance agent here, I remember in our application forms, when it comes to the beneficiary is the person who will be receiving the money, the proceeds from the life insurance. It stated their relationship to insured. So that's the client or the person who's getting the life insurance policy. So relationship to insured, let's say I am the son of the insured, right? I am the brother of the insured. So designated beneficiary, even that alone is a relationship already. So again, people joining who are watching the live or the replay, this is a relationship live Q&A. Feel free to ask any question on the topic of relationships. So we just shared that relationships aren't just romantic. So again, I could be a brother. That's one relationship. I could be a son. That's a relationship to my parents. I could be, a friend or a colleague when it comes to professional and work. So there are different kinds of relationships. Now, to just start this live tonight, again, I want it more relaxed, more chill, more laid back. I'll be sharing something also. So what inspired me to do this live is something that was shared with me recently by my older sister. So I'll be sharing that. I'll be sharing that in a bit. But people watching the live or the replay again, feel free to comment down below if you have any questions at all regarding relationships. Not limited to romantic. If you're single, again, it's complicated for those who could relate, or anything, been there, done that. Feel free to ask away. That's the topic of tonight. So, why am I doing this live? Again, more laid back. My older sister shared with me a post recently, and it really hit me. So before I begin with the whole Q&A thing, here's like a appetizer intro. So people watching the live or the replay, I'm curious, have you ever heard of this thing called the love languages? So you could type that down below, love languages, if you are familiar with it. And then this is where we're gonna start off with this live. So it's something I learned, and this was back in 2019. I found it super helpful, and I'll share with you one part that was actually mind blowing for me. So, for those who are familiar with the love languages, you can comment down below. There are five. There are five love languages. This is a book by Gary Chapman, I believe Dr. Gary Chapman, who wrote that. And there are five different love languages. So this is a good guide that helped me understand relationships better. And I want the life to be practical also. So what does that mean? We can also test or apply these tips in our life even after this live already. So there we go. I'm just checking out the dashboard of this live on StreamYard. So first love language. So I'll share. Anyone watching the live or the replay, again, feel free to comment down below any of the love languages, or if you have a question regarding relationships. So the first love language that that I will share is words. So what is words, right? These are the verbal or written ways of expressing love. So as you could see here, this down below, you see my name. But if I want to communicate something, I could put up any different set of words. So as I share through this love languages more, I want to make this practical also as well. So it's related again, that was shared with me with my sister. So practical tips for love languages. The next one, again, if you're watching, feel free to comment down below if you know any of the love languages or if you have a question on relationships. So the second one after words is called acts of service. So what is acts of service? Again, these are more of, if you've ever heard of that line, actions speak louder than words. These are done in our gestures. These are done in doing either a literal action, a favor. Again, I'll explain further or share more on this because in the love languages. So thank you guys. I see your support in the live. So I see the reactions and see you watching. So thank you so much. Again, feel free to comment also down below and interact. Again, if you know any of the love languages or if you have a question on relationships, not limited to romantic only. Again, it can be any question on relationships. So I'll share more on examples of that, acts of service as well. Moving forward, those two already, words, acts of service. So in the five love languages, there's also time or quality time. So the third one. So what's quality time? For example, I'll share a personal one. Earlier today, let's say my brother wants to have merienda, could be 30 minutes, 1 hour, like that. I learned that quality time isn't necessarily the length or the duration, but one thing that makes time quality is if you actually make an effort, if you actually make time, no distractions, as much as possible, like the cell phone is away. I'm not scrolling on Facebook, Instagram. So it's being present also there. That's one example of a love language. Now I'll tie this in together as we go through this live to make it to give more clarity and examples. Three already. So words, acts of service, quality time. Feel free to comment if you know the next ones out of five. So fourth, I'll share. So this thing is called gifts. So what's gifts? An example of gifts is it's not just the stereotypical here in the Philippines, whenever we travel, coming back home, they give this thing called pasalubong. It's a gift. So you buy like goodies, food, um, something from that country, or if you flew out to a different region or island and you're coming back to Manila, that's an example of a gift. So gift, I learned also, this was back in 2019 because I took a seminar actually and learned more about it. Gifts, I thought gifts was like zero in my list. It was like the least that I valued. But number four for gifts, how many here would want to receive some Gcash? So again, here in the country, maybe if you're living abroad, it's called like Venmo or like, it's like digital banking, fintech. So how many of you would actually like it if you received money, as a gift instead of like some random, you know, present that you didn't even appreciate at all, right? So money, cash, that can actually be a form of gifts. It could be a love language. Now, I've actually heard of some people that they don't appreciate receiving money, meaning they appreciate something else, and that's okay. That's fine also. So we already have four. There are five love languages. The fifth one, so we have words, acts of service, quality time, gifts. The last one is called touch. So that's also known as physical touch. So what is that? I will flash them all here now already. So physical touch is actually, it's not just again for those who are wondering romantic, is that making out? Is that all like that? No, it could be hugging. Again, a very sincere hug. Sometimes with physical touch, in my personal experience, and you guys feel free to share, what I learned is sometimes even it's proximity, meaning if I'm sitting next to a person, you could actually feel like their vibe, their energy, their warmth, like that, and that's already very comforting already. So these are the five different love languages before we proceed to the Q&A, the live question and answer. Type your questions down below again because the live tonight is about relationships. So any questions you ask, we will answer them here. So the love languages as an intro to this live is, let's make it practical. My sister shared with me a post recently, an Instagram post on the love languages. So comment down below, among these five love languages, words, acts of service, quality time, gifts, or physical touch, which one of them, which one of these love languages is the one that you most naturally, by default, you like expressing the most? So which is the one like you are known for this? If they say, oh, Martin, he's the person who does this, like that. Oh, if you're with him, like that, that's a clue. So as you're still the people watching the live, or if you're about to comment and watching the replay, I'll share my example. So my love language, because I even took a test on this, you could take it online, the five love languages test. The top love language that I express by default or just the most is acts of service. So I'm not a words person. So the reason why I'm sharing this also is it's more awareness. So we learn more about ourselves. And the good thing is we'll also learn how to connect or communicate with people better. So it's fulfilling their needs and your needs when it comes to love or relationships. So I'm not a words person, meaning I won't even say it. I'm the type of person who would rather just show up and do it. So other people, you could be different, and that's fine. Again, it's not like here. Nick, thank you for sharing words. There are people I know. One of my mentors, Coach Bam Santiago, who passed away this year, he was a words person. And what I learned from him was when he expressed words, he gave healing or hope or comfort to people who needed it. So it was his gift. It wasn't just his love language. So reading some of here, so I see Pearl or yeah, Mary here. Acts of service, again, I could relate. I'm asking what is the default way of how we express love to people. So thank you. Thank you, Nick, for sharing this. And yeah, again, I'm just sharing this, partly passing on the legacy of all I've learned from my mentors, my training, and I just felt like doing this more laid back style of live now. So love the engagement, guys. So love languages. This is what I learned also that was mind blowing for me. So now we have more awareness, Nick. So Mary, like, thank you for sharing yours. Words, acts of service. One thing I learned from Coach Bam when I took my seminar with him in 2019, my first Unbounded seminar. So when I learned about the love languages, the thing that blew my mind was I asked you what's your default way of expressing love. So thank you, Nick. So take advantage, yeah. So if it's half off. Yun. So Mary, her example again of acts of services, you could do that. You could cook for people like that. So sometimes the love language could be a hybrid, meaning that's an act of service. For some person, that could also be like a gift to them because of the food. So yes, yeah. And the topic is largely also inspired by Coach Bam because I learned about the love languages in 2019 because of him. And I'm gonna share this, what blew my mind about when I attended that seminar. We know our defaults now. My default way of expressing love is acts of service. So what I learned from Coach Bam when he shared it this way about the love languages was we actually have a primary or our default way of expressing love. These five you could see down below. But we also have a love language of receiving. So there's a difference of the way we express or give our love and the way we receive. We like receiving love. So I'll ask now down below, people watching the live or the replay too, feel free to comment now. Some of you said it's words, some of you said it's acts of service. Now I'm going to ask you, what is your favorite way of receiving love that makes you most happy? Now I'll start first, right? You're like, what do you mean, Martin? Give me an example. So I shared that my primary way, my default way of expressing love is through acts of service. Actions speak louder than words. I believe that, I do it. So the way I actually appreciate receiving love is through, can anyone guess? Is it this, 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 or this? So yeah, so I'm gonna share what Nick uh commented here. Touch, physical touch. I discovered that my favorite or top, like the one that makes me feel loved the most when I receive it, is actually physical touch. Now, it's a little more nuanced, so this is my way of sharing it. Could be a sensitive topic, right? So, ironically, I don't like being touched by just anyone. Very selective. Some of you may have grown up with trust issues. Some of you may have had actual physical trauma. Some of you may have been abused or have deep fears that need healing. I could relate. So when it comes to physical touch, with the right person, it's super healing and I super appreciate it. So the thing that blew my mind was my love language of giving or expressing acts of service was different from my love language of receiving. So I'll read some examples here. So Nick originally said words, I believe, was his way of expressing. And I could see I could see just by all these comments that he's sharing. So thank you for that, Nick. It's his way of expressing love. Now I believe the way of receiving, because the top one he put here was quality time, I think. So it sometimes it could be different. You could by default love expressing yourself through words, but what you love receiving could be quality time. So I'm gonna look for, yes, looking if, yeah, Mary commented here. So the way she expresses love by default here, earlier she said that's acts of service, she would cook, but the way that she would receive it, she loves receiving quality time. So let's make this practical. Nick even ranked it. So like he said, when he would receive maybe quality time, then he would go acts of service, words, touch, and then gifts last. So I actually took a test, a love languages test. You could take it online, it's free. And then similarly, gifts was my lowest, my last. I think the second to the last for me was words. Then my top one was like acts of service. Uh, Acts of service, quality time, I think, and then physical touch was under those two. So, I'll read another comment here. And let's make it practical too. Again, comment down below. And if you have questions too about relationships. So this is all about, I'll go back to this, Q&A, a question and answer on relationships. So any question on not just romantic relationships, but also, again, relationship as a brother, sister, father, mother, son, daughter, anything, even in work. So Nick said, since I've been 12, I've asked people to just spend time with me for my birthday. Let's eat, do something together. So that's a very clear example of quality time that would be appreciated. And I agree. The hardest gift to get too is someone's time, meaning it's like their undivided attention, or they did it voluntarily, I would say. It wasn't forced. So I appreciate you too, Nick. So I really, and you're helping a lot just by sharing your words or comments here. So I'll make this practical too, because we're on the topic of the love languages. My sister shared with me this post, and it was from Instagram. So what do we do? What do we do? Let's say we have these five love languages underneath here over here. So what do we do based on the love language? So let's start already with this one. Let's start with words first. Practical. Let's get practical here. What can we do if your love language is words, or you're dealing with someone and their love language is words? That's more awareness, right? Because I'm an acts of service person, but what if the person loves receiving words? So practical tips I saw from this post was you can compliment them. So Coach Bam, my mentor, he was really good at giving compliments, and they were sincere. Meaning, there's that saying, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So I love this. I'm a closet cheerleader, Nick. So because by default, if you see me, people would say I have like an RBF, like a resting betch face, right? Like I look so serious, something stuck up my ass. But I love doing this. I love supporting people. And if ever you can do it through your words, it doesn't have to be a lot, but they feel it. And I really saw that with Coach Bam. There are people who could express themselves, and it's not what they say only, it's how they say it, the impact, the emotion you get from it. Wow, like that's one way. Complimenting. You can write them notes. So all these comments of Nick that I see here, he's practicing his love language of words actually. So these are all notes, tips, sharing his like best ideas or lessons with us. Um, you can ask someone how their day went, and here's the counter one, which I'll Nick spot on here. People think words is about talking. Here's the counter one for it. It's listening. So I just read it here in the post. One of the best ways to express your love language of words is by listening. Because you're listening to their words. So yeah, it's being there for them. Now the next one from words, we're now on acts of service. What can we do? Practical tips to express this. If we see someone, I'm an acts of service person, so this is going to be super appropriate for me. It says here, set alarms for chores. Be mindful of their workload. Oh, I could super relate to that. Take care of their stuff. So this one, let's say I'm with someone, we eat out. They leave their cell phone, they leave their bag, their stuff on the table because we're eating in a restaurant. Automatic. For me, I met some people when I go to the bathroom and I accidentally leave my stuff. Suddenly, they're not looking out for it. So I learned that not everyone will treat us the same way as we do because their language could be different. So I would watch out or take care of their stuff while they're away. Why? What if their bag had money in it? Real shit, right? Or what if their phone, right, gets stolen, something like that? It's just harsh reality. Doing chores well, not halfway. So I could super relate to that. So when I do something like this, I like doing it well, not half baked. So next, quality time. What are practical tips we can do? Let's say that person we're dealing with appreciates quality time. Put down your phone. A lot of people, you, me, were guilty of this. We're scrolling through Instagram, Facebook notifications. So for me, it's keeping track of the comments of people watching the live or the replay. If you ask a question, if you are crazy enough to ask a question on this live, I will answer it. So that's part of quality time, right? I know how much effort and courage it takes for you to type and put it out there. So I appreciate your time, your quality, that quality also. Plan a fun outing or date. So yeah, let's say maybe my brother, because he reached out earlier, he wanted to have merienda, just something simple, quality time. Maybe that's something that he appreciates. Schedule time with them. So this one could be family, a friend. So the answer lies in the questions. That's a secret too, Nick. But the thing is, yeah, to give our attention and make an effort also. So you make an effort to type it. I'll make an effort to answer it, right? By the way, as Nick said, sometimes the answer lies from other people here commenting, or you discover it yourself. You have an aha eureka moment. Like, I have a question. Oh yeah, so that's the answer. And I love that when it happens. So, scheduling time with them again, one thing I'm learning from what I've been going through, my personal development journey, depression, breakups, like that is, why am I doing this live? Hey, my time can be up tomorrow, and I'm just happy. I hope you had a good time tonight and maybe get an answer to a question that's been keeping you stuck all this time. Next, gifts. So, how do we practical tips? What if the person we're dealing with appreciates gifts? That's their love language. You can set alarms for birthdays. So, this one, admittedly, I stopped celebrating my birthday. That's a long story, but there are people where it really matters a lot to them. Ask what kind of gifts they like best. That one I love. I love this comment. Ask them what kind of gifts they like. Thank you, Nick. Thank you for that. So I appreciate your authenticity as well. Everyone watching. So why is this tip so helpful? Ask what kind of gifts they like best. I have been a recipient of gifts that some people have given me a gift, and I was like, I didn't say this literally to them, but I'm like, I don't even like this. Why are you giving this to me? And maybe some of you have been recipients of hand me downs, meaning it was an unthoughtful gift that they were just like dumping onto you. Now, if that, I'm not saying this is you, I'm saying like maybe you have been on the receiving end of that or this, right? So ask what kind of gifts they like best. Set alarms to give them gifts just because. Pick them a flower. So, yes, yeah. Thank you, Nick. I'll keep that in mind also for this live. So, last, speaking of, because of that, we're on to touch. So, the fifth and the last. What if, practical tips, what if the person we're dealing with, their love language is physical touch, right? So, what can we do? Random hugs. Now, if you want to learn how to give a we call a connected hug, then comment deep dive down below, because that's something I normally would do in person seminars or one on one, like just to guide or demonstrate it. It's not really suitable to share that over a video, like over live like this. So random hugs, I actually had to learn how to give a hug properly, because yeah, let's go, right? Because I didn't know how to do that before. Now, as a man or like a male growing up, went to an all boys school, grade school, high school. I really didn't know how to do physical touch properly. So this was super big for me. When you're with them, see what they're looking at and talking about for good gifts idea. So yeah, you could also be like a detective, meaning just be very observant. And then for people who love expressing their love through gifts, their love language, take the hints, right? Hey, this person, their favorite thing is this, this, this. Oh, Martin, he loves guns, so something gun related like that, for example. So back to basics. That's what we're sharing tonight on these five love languages down here. Physical touch. Final tips. Schedule time for physical intimacy. So those who are into, they have a partner. You have a girlfriend, a boyfriend, husband, wife. Uh, I believe that's very important, actually. This is super important. Again, as Nick would say, they're like the foundations. So why, by the way, when you say schedule time for physical intimacy, I learned it's actually a need, a human need. Now, if you don't believe me, because it's also a foundation, as mentioned here by Nick, you don't have to believe me. You could believe Abraham Maslow. He's the guy who came up with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So after basic needs, food, clothing, shelter, air, up there we have a need for connection, relationships. Tony Robbins in his six human needs. In the middle, he puts their connection or love. So it's part of a human need. So if you're craving for that, you are human, like me. So yes. Also, yeah, if it's not scheduled, it won't happen. Now, the thing about Nick, when you said scheduled, it does not have to be a routine. So those who have been in relationships, you know how sometimes the women get bored, or sometimes it's the guy. You could be spontaneous, but I agree when you say scheduled here. When Nick says put it in the calendar, set an intention, or it's not gonna happen. Proof. I set it. I set a schedule for this live to go live on relationships, this live Q&A. If I didn't set it for 9 o'clock tonight, probably not gonna happen, right? So next, offer a shoulder massage. Last, put your hand on their leg in the car. Wow, I'm just reading the the post here chat on Instagram. So like, that's for people who have consent or are in that type of relationship already with each other. So again, it's expression of your physical, uh, again, vulnerability and transparency. So yeah, Real Talk Lifeline is about that, Nick. Right? It's about real, raw, and authentic. Because I get it. Most of the time in public, we have a hard time having conversations or just sharing like this. Why? Maybe it's culture or conditioning, society or religion like that. But I just wanted to make a space for this, and I believe it's healthy to have this. Practice makes permanent. Now, moving forward, I want to wrap up the love languages here. Why is it important that we express our love languages here? The five words: acts of service, quality time, gifts, touch. And we got tips how to do it. Why is it important? So Stephen Covey, he's the author of Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. He has this term called an emotional bank account. So we were learning tips on actually how to fill that emotional bank account the proper way or the connected way related to the love language of yourself or the other person. So expressing ourselves in a way that's responsible, or the way I would say this, it's more calculated or connected. For example, if I want to deposit money, like in the terms of emotional bank account, right? Financial services, let's say I have pesos, that's the currency, Philippine pesos. If I try to deposit my money into a US dollar bank account, may not it may not enter, right? Because it doesn't match. So we're trying to match the love languages, boom, 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 with that person, with that relationship, right? Again, relationship could be that our father or mother, it could be our brother, sister, it could be our daughter or son, nephew or niece, if you already have, right? So our responsibility, I like that, meaning we have choice. We're not just reacting. We have conscious response or a choice, and we have the ability to express that. So this is a good reminder for Nick. I'm gonna do that. So everyone watching the live replay, so just take a deep breath with me and let it go. So why did I do that? To smile, react less. It's a practice. I learned that sometimes the person, whether it be physical touch, quality time, that person, it can help actually ground, relax them. If they were in an anxious state, they were kind of frazzled, they were feeling hassled, you actually help them feel better in that moment. So, okay, so moving forward, we know how to express our love. Why is it important? The emotional bank account. So there's a term, we can make deposits, we can add to it, fill it up, right? And we do have the choice all the time, right? When we give the right love language to the right person, and we make that connection with them. Now, why is this important also? This is the second part, the second half of the post that was shared with me in Love Languages. If there are deposits, there are also withdrawals. So, how does a withdrawal happen in our bank account, right? Or when it comes to our love, right? Our love tank, our emotional bank account. So, if we're not careful, holy mo. So, I believe where are you watching from, Nick? Yeah, it's right now it's 9:42 p.m. Saturday. So here in the Philippines. So we're ahead, yeah. We're ahead here in the Philippines. 9:40 p.m. So I guess you're all right. So over there in the US, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So yeah, that's like 14 hours, I think, difference or something like that. Anyways, thank you for watching. I hope you're having a good morning, like to start your day. So, to wrap this up on the topic of love languages, again, people watching this live, feel free to ask, yeah, your questions. So, I'll move to the live Q&A after sharing about the love languages. So, if we have deposits, we're knowing how to fill that love tank, the emotional bank account. If we're not careful, we can also do withdrawals. There could be penalties. It could lessen. So, the number one way, or one big way that can affect our love, the love languages or relationships is I'll start with again words. So I'll go chronologically here. Thank you, Nick. Words. If we can give love, one way of taking love away through words over here is never saying I'm proud of you. Sarcasm, careless comments. So that's super common actually. Unsolicited advice or criticism. So some of us are guilty of that. Actually, I'm guilty of that too. So the opposite of bringing joy is it's these examples that would take away joy from someone who appreciates love languages, right? So words, by the way. So again, if we do those, then we can actually lessen the love. So for example, someone will say, love language is words. But I keep saying a lot to you. I keep saying all these endless paragraphs, all these things, but you're not listening like that. Well, maybe it's unsolicited, right? Maybe it's careless comments that are actually damaging, right? Damaging it. So, next one from words, acts of service is if we're filling up the love tank, if we're not careful and we do this instead, we can actually deplete it. So, how? When it comes to acts of service, slacking on your chores, making more work for them, disrespecting their stuff, or chores done sloppily. So here, for example, when we do it well, our acts of service, I appreciate that. So thank you. If someone does the opposite, it would actually deplete the love tank or the emotional bank account. Next, quality time, distractions. So people who could relate again, maybe it's related. I think earlier there was a tip on maybe listening. So one thing I'm learning is also to flow with it. So for example, thank you AJ for your comment here in the live. So it only works for nice guys. So by the way, so I can share these tips because a lot of us growing up we were trained or programmed to be nice guys, right? Unless you were a natural and some alpha male type, you just get it. But I believe, like when done right, it can apply for all people. And again, I'm open to your comments, right? So quality time, Distraction. So, yeah, by the way, for AJ, this is just a bonus, right? Because when it comes to women, it's not about giving your attention all the time, right? But then there are times that when done properly, right, the whole you have your own higher purpose, right? There's like it's like a dance. It actually makes them more attracted. So again, right, that's a different topic, by the way. You could put that in the questions if you want, right? So you're glued to your phone. You never do anything fun together, spending all your time with others. So that's how to deplete the love tank or the emotional bank account for quality time, right? And then I'll quickly go through some of these comments. I love that reverse engineering. So that's what we're trying to do. Understand so we can reconstruct it. Transition, go back, agree. Magaan kasama. Yes, correct, AJ. Yeah, so that's one thing. So what we're trying to learn here, AJ, is also, yeah, we can surround ourselves with those people, but what can we do also for ourselves? So I'd be curious. Yeah, I understand. How do I become the person na magaan kasama? Because by default, I'm heavy. Like we can go deep, right? We could talk about death, life insurance agent here, right? But then how do I become that person, right? And match the love language with them. So again, it's not. By the way, there's a balance. It's not being a people pleaser. It's just being mindful or making an effort to appreciate the other person in front of us, understand them better. Agree. So that's me, AJ. I could relate to that. The quiet ones. And then when you get to know them, they're super ingay, no? So sobrang kulit. So yeah, correct. So the way I see it is better to give than take because you're blessed enough that you have something to give. So what we're learning is how to give. And speaking of how to give properly, so why? Moving on to the next one here, gifts. We just did quality time. If this is an example of giving improperly, for example, for gifts, the love language of gifts, forgetting a birthday or holiday, right? So if I give ignorance, right? Last minute thoughtless gifts. So I gave something pa rin, but maybe I'm giving, you know, uh, sloppy behavior or resentment, right? I'm just giving it for the sake. Impersonal or re-gifts. Oh my goodness. So that's what it says here in the post. Not listening about their gift preferences. So even though that's still giving, maybe it's not giving properly. That could cause damage. That could actually deplete the love tank or their emotional bank account when it comes to the love languages. So here nowadays, more than ever before, it's more possible and easier to study network and apply anything. We truly live in a great time. I agree, Nick. So this is what we're doing here. We're sharing just all these lessons together, and I appreciate all your inputs as well. Last, for the love languages on touch, again, people, you could just watching the replay, comment your questions because we're on the topic of relationships. So any question you ask, we are gonna answer it tonight. So last for the love languages, before we move to the Q&A, is physical touch. So we got tips on how to give it or express it properly. What's a way to express physical touch improperly? So it will lessen our love tank or emotional bank account. Swatting their hand away. No kissing or cuddling. No hugs. Seeing you give a hug to someone else. So I'm reading this post. So again, right, when it comes to giving, I agree with AJ's comment. What I'm learning here is we can actually keep giving to someone and we think we're making an effort, but we're doing an effort the wrong way. So how many of you could relate, meaning when it comes to money, you keep looking at your bank account, you're like, Well, I keep depositing, I keep working hard. Why does it keep getting depleted, right? Because we're making more withdrawals or maybe more penalties, right? For those who do loans, they get charged interest, all these fees like that. So here, your segues from point. Thank you for sharing. Thank you, AJ. Remember to feel good enough to take two, though. Yes. So this comment of Nick is super key. It blesses the giver too. You deserve the best. So why? Why can I relate? I grew up being taught that it's better to give. So my big challenge was I didn't know how to be a receiver. So when I took my seminars, my personal development, there's a saying, I'm a generous giver and an excellent receiver. So a lot of us know how to give in our culture here in the Philippines, like be generous, hospitality, like that. But we have a hard time receiving. So why, as Nick mentioned here, is it good to receive? Imagine if you were donating to a charity or a homeless person, right, who was hungry. You bought them food fresh, it's like hot, freshly cooked, like that. You're gonna give the food to them. And then they say, no, I don't want to receive it from you. You would feel bad, right? So when you give the right way, or when you receive also the right way, it would bless or make the other person happier. So quick story here. Tony Robbins, one of my mentors, his mentor, his root mentor was Jim Rohn. So Tony Robbins, out of thanks, he wanted to pay for the meal when he ate with Jim Rohn, who was mentoring him. So Jim Rohn said to Tony Robbins, "Don't deny me of this blessing for me to pay for the meal because it makes him happy to do so." So these are tips for sales, guys, except for the touching. So correct, AJ, because I'm a life insurance agent. I'm in sales. So this is why I'm sharing it also from this angle. Super helpful. The touching, I believe, is actually still applicable. Now, in the life insurance industry or sales, it's mostly uh, women, so females for some reason, and then the just being real open about it, like whatever your sexuality is, right? If you are a straight guy in sales or the life insurance industry, you're like the minority. Again, I'm saying that just out of love or openness, right? It's the reality. Knowing how to touch the right way is actually super helpful. Because if I don't, it's gonna get awkward with a female client or your colleague, like that. If you know how to actually touch professionally or connected or grounded, it's super helpful. Like in a non sexual, non harassment, or a non awkward way, it's actually super helpful to learn also. Touching, by the way, could just be the right handshake with a high net worth client or a client, right? It could be how sitting, the last tip on touching, it could be the positioning of sitting next to a client. By default, we usually sit across, but if you sit side by side and you're presenting something on your iPad, your laptop, like that, the proximity, you actually have higher trust, right? So why are we doing all this? It's because of awareness, right? Correct, I agree. So we're learning all this not just to give the love languages, but we said, right, we have a love language of expressing or giving. We also have a love language of receiving. So it's up to me to handle my unmet needs, right, of physical touch. How am I going to get that? So I have to learn how to receive when I have it, fulfill my needs. So when my needs are met, I can meet your needs. So it is, I believe it's realistic and grounded. Nonverbal interpersonal communication could come in the form of touch. Under words, it could be listening, correct? Right. This is a line actually from one of my $1 million roundtable MDRT um sharings. Yeah, if it's to be, it's up to me. So it's up to me to make it happen. So right now, we're gonna be moving forward to the Q&A. Meaning, if you have any questions about relationships here in this live, before I end it, relationships could be, it's not just romantic. If you do have questions, feel free to ask it anyway. It could be relationships with family, again, either as a son, a daughter, brother, sister. Maybe you're a father or a mother, or you're a relative, like your cousins, extended family, or you're just part of a community or in work. Feel free to ask any question regarding relationships. We covered a lot just here through love languages. Why? It answers the question already of how what love do we need among the five, right? Of Gary Chapman's five love languages. How do we fulfill our need of love? Mind's physical touch. How do we express ourselves in love, right? So you have your primary, your default, your answer to that. This is how we communicate and connect with people when it comes to relationships. Again, quick sharing earlier. Maybe, maybe like if my brother wanted to have quality time spent together, then awareness, that's the way. That's the way he appreciates love, right? It's through that. My dad, maybe he's not really a words person, meaning growing up, I didn't really talk with my dad up to now. Still pretty challenging. But maybe he's more of an acts of service type of person, the way he expresses his love or himself. So for relationships, any questions here? Hey Duchess from Cebu. Yeah, if you have any questions on relationships, feel free to type them down below. Again, doesn't have to be romantic only, not limited. It could be family, uh, friends, colleagues, like that. Correct, Nick? We're all in this together. So Brian Tracy, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, he's also one of the mentors I'm learning from. I don't know how to word it, but yes, lots of questions about self, teen daughter, 5-year-old boy, toddler son, spouse, parents, siblings, friends, near and far, etc. So for Nick, we could like baby step. So we could start somewhere because you gave already a lot of points to, like, it's awareness of, hey, these are a lot of areas that I'm curious or I could ask about. So the very first one, by the way, that Nick mentioned here is questions about self. These love languages that I shared, they're actually to help us love or understand ourselves first. Because we don't fulfill our needs, we just keep giving, right? Expressing it. We're gonna burn out, we're gonna deplete, right? And there's actually one love language here in my training that if you don't meet it, you could die. So if you don't, it's spoiler, like if you attend the seminars or you do one-on-one with me, it's touch. Because since birth, the child, if they don't actually get that touch from the mother or the nurse, the caregiver, they they can actually develop failure to thrive syndrome. Like they can die or they won't develop properly. Thank you, Nick. Yes, still staying strong every day, one day at a time, right? So, just like you guys. So, if you have any questions on relationships, again, and you could narrow it down, by the way, it could be super specific. You can comment down below, people watching the live or the replay. I'm just reading Nick's comment here, and a lot of the relationships here, they you could apply the tips on the love languages, but it's not limited to that. So each one of these is already a deep dive in itself. So whether it's uh, myself or with my family, again, spouse. Well, I was just in a long term relationship. Parents, siblings, friends, near. Show how much you care. So how do we do that? Yes, it's by what we were learning tonight. So it's love languages. People love love talking about love all the time. So these are practical tips. Taking charge, YOLO, I agree. You only live once. So yeah, thank you. So I'll be wrapping up in a few minutes, maybe like 5 minutes. People watching the live or the replay, if you still have any specific, by the way, specific questions before I end the live, you can just comment those who are watching the replay. I'll respond. I might make another live on it if you ask like a super compelling question, like man, like you really want the answer to this, right? So we can do that. Comment down below. And love languages, that was the base for this live tonight, because whatever your relationship you are in, I believe that you could apply the love languages to that relationship. Not just romantic. Again, it could have been family, could have been, yes, be safe, have fun, get your most important stuff done. We'll add questions. So yes, again, so everyone who was watching the live tonight, Nick, AJ, Mary earlier. Um, I'm just reading all these comments here. Duchess, all the way from Cebu, and when we met for the first time. Comment down below, because sometimes you have this question of relationships. Again, whether it's romantic, it's a friendship, family, work, and then you're like, how do I handle this? How do I solve this? Right? So love languages is a hint. It's only one hint, again, because make this as practical as you can. Do the love languages right. You could fill up your love tank first. Do it right or properly. You get to fill up the emotional bank account with that other person. Now, the way I would treat it is, let's say earlier with my brother, those are moments that I can value or appreciate because maybe you made time, you made an effort, and on my deathbed, I would actually look at those moments and it would feel lighter. It would feel more fulfilling, right? So you're welcome, Nick. There are at times I actually usually do lives like this at night for some reason. I'm usually a night person. So over there in the US, that's like 7 a.m. right, in your side of the world. Randomly, if I have a really good idea or a live that I want to share about, I do shorter lives like that. So this one was one of the scheduled ones. Thank you, Nick. No regrets. So, 2 or 3 minutes, I'll just be wrapping up this live. Any any last questions on relationships? You're welcome. You're welcome, brother, my friend, all the way there from the other side of the world. Any anything here that you want to ask? There we go. Boom. Last questions on relationships. People watching the live or the replay, feel free to comment down below. Before this live ends in like about 2 minutes, I'll share with you a final bonus, I guess. So when it comes to relationships, I share the 5 love languages because they're a way to meet unmet needs. So these, like relationships, like connection with other people, it's a human need. As I learned Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Tony Robbins, the 6 human needs. So what are other ways to fulfill your unmet needs? Again, comment down below if you have a question. Maybe you do have a need and it's not being met. Maybe you have a need when it comes to relationships with yourself, with others. Maybe you have a need to express yourself. Maybe you have a need to be heard. Maybe you have another need that isn't being met. So you could comment that down below here for the live or the replay. I'll read it. Wow, so in transit. And that's like a far drive or travel over there. So thank you for sharing, Nick. Introspection, by the way, is after watching this live or the replay, if you get to reflect, Maybe you learned something new about yourself and how to connect better with people. Before I end this live, feel free to use or test The Love Languages by Gary Chapman. If you want to learn more about it, comment down below, deep dive, or if it's something specific, like you want to learn how to do the hug, right? Comment that down below. If there's another thing, another question about relationships that wasn't answered, feel free to comment it down below again so we can help you get that answer to your question. So I'm going to wrap up this live now. We hit the 1 hour mark. So, Nick, I'm just reading the final comments here. Reflect, review, and adjust. So, thank you everyone who joined me tonight here. That's what I've been doing. Nick, Mary, AJ, Duchess, thank you for joining me tonight. It also helped me review my notes from back in 2019. I'm not just learning, I'm also living it. That's why I'm sharing it with you. Laugh and love, I agree. I wanted to keep this light and chill. Random acts of kindness, thank you, Nick. I could really see your love languages is words. All these comments, you're just sharing. That's your way of expressing love. So this one I'm still trying to learn. The talking to strangers. This one I totally agree. Help serve others, which is what I'm doing. Real Talk Lifeline is part of my mission, my purpose, passion in life, which is why I'm doing this 1 hour live with you tonight. If you're watching the live or the replay, you have a question you wanted to slip in, maybe type it in the comments down below and then I'll answer it. If it's a question that you really need help with, I might even do another live just to answer it. So, and there are many ways we can all help each other, as Nick is sharing down here, right? So, what I'm trying to do here before I end this live is just sharing with you ideas on how to handle your needs when it comes to relationships. Again, you could use the love languages, test them, fill your needs to receive that love, fill other people's needs by giving the right kind of love that they would appreciate or need in that moment. And if you have any last questions, comment down below. Relationships, maybe you have a question on relationships that was not answered. Thank you, Nick, for your comments. You made a difference tonight too. Adios. Thank you, all of you guys watching the live or the replay. I love you, and I will see you next time.